provided by Thomas Allgeier and Frannis, based on the most relevant post on LinkedIn about next-gen vehicle intelligence in CW 2324. Frannis is a B2B market research company working with enterprises to optimize their campaigns with account and executive insights far beyond AI. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're cutting through the noise to bring you the absolute top next-gen vehicle intelligence trends. These are straight from the most relevant LinkedIn posts that Thomas Allgeier and Frannis have distilled for us over the past couple of weeks.
That's right.
Our mission, really, is to explore how the automotive industry is fundamentally reinventing itself. It's not just about how cars drive anymore, but how they're built and how they're monetized.
Exactly. And what's really clear from these recent insights is this fundamental shift. The entire automotive value chain. It's now organizing itself around software-defined thinking. We're seeing OEMs, suppliers too, really lean into proprietary operating systems, cloud-native tooling, and these, strategic ecosystem partnerships. It's all about accelerating new features and, crucially, finding ways to monetize all that valuable vehicle data.
And it's not just talk anymore, is it?
Yeah.
We're seeing early commercial launches, level 2+ rollouts. It feels like this tech is truly moving from the lab to the road.
Definitely.
So let's unpack this. Our first big theme, the software-defined vehicle, the SDV, and its underlying architecture. Clearly seems to be the core organizing principle now.
It really is.
We're seeing OEM roadmaps kind of converge on these zonal and high-performance compute layouts.
It's a profound shift, and what's critical here, jumps out, is that this new foundation demands standardized diagnostics and incredibly disciplined complexity management.
Discipline being the key word there.
Absolutely. Multiple posts highlighted this. You had Marcus Redstead emphasizing service-oriented diagnostics, SOVD, which is, essential for these dynamic mixed criticality systems.
Okay, but if complexity just gets shifted over to software, how are OEMs actually trying to, get a handle on that? Are there specific strategies emerging?
Well, that's the core challenge, isn't it? Abalash Thekilakadal, I think, captured it perfectly. He warned that zonal architecture can feel a bit like quicksand for OEMs.
Quicksand, okay.
Yeah, the key insight is you're not eliminating complexity. You're fundamentally shifting it from the hardware side over to the software side. And this whole idea of a one-size-fits-all central computer, it seems pretty impractical in this new world.
So it's less about simplifying maybe and more about managing that complexity in a totally new way. That makes sense. And we are seeing OEMs double down on their own first-party software platforms to try and, control this. August and Friedel shared that Toyota's Arena OS is in its final readiness stages.
Yeah, and FadeP pointed out its bold launch on the RV4.
Exactly. On the RAV4, one of their biggest global sellers, not just some, niche EV.
Right, a huge volume platform.
Meanwhile, Magnus Osberg highlighted Mercedes-Benz's transition. They're moving to fully updatable SDVs, using remote over-the-air OTA updates for enhanced functionality. That feels like a huge vote of confidence in OTA, going way beyond just bug fixes.
It really does. And this strategic shift, it also means consolidation among suppliers. Jens Henriksen recently shared news about NXP's agreement to acquire TT Tech Auto.
Oh, okay.
This positions NXP to offer basically an end-to-end SDV controller stack. That's a significant move, trying to streamline the architecture and provide a more integrated solution.
Interesting. Beyond that consolidation, though, one thing that really jumped out at me from the LinkedIn discussions was this growing open source momentum. What's driving that? And what are some practical applications we're seeing?
Well, it's largely about accelerating development and fostering collaboration, Philo Schmidt announced Eclipse Open SOVD. That's the first open source implementation of the SOVD standard.
Which is huge for industry cooperation.
Exactly. And then Ionder A introduced a new open source repository for deploying Android Cuttlefish virtual devices on AWS.
Okay. What does that enable practically?
It significantly lowers the barriers for rapid iteration and test automation. That's absolutely critical for the kind of fast-paced software development needed here.
Right. Faster cycles. But, despite all this amazing tech, a recurring theme from thought leaders is that organizational change, not the code itself, is the real critical path. Dix Devasa Hayam posted about leadership being the real disruption, not just AI or SDVs.
That's such a key point. And Robert Fay's critique of Volkswagen's politically motivated job split at Cariad really serves as a case study here.
How so?
Well, he argued that splitting software and architecture basically led to fragmentation and ultimately structural failure. It's quite unlike the integrated approaches you see at, say, Tesla or BYD.
Which brings us back to that organizational structure point. Victor Eliasson also touched on this, saying SDV requires a mindset shift.
Yes, he really emphasized moving from thinking in projects to thinking in products. His question was quite stark. How do you deliver value every single sprint? And his bottom line was equally blunt. If your org chart, your structure, can't actually ship software effectively, then no tech stack, no matter how advanced, is going to save you.
It really brings it home that it's about the people and the processes just as much, if not more, than the silicon itself.
Precisely.
Okay, moving on from the architecture. Let's talk about the digital backbone enabling all this. Cloud, AI, and data. These cloud plus edge architectures are, well, they're rapidly becoming the essential infrastructure for OTA features, data monetization, and those crucial AI training libs.
Yeah, as Matt Damasceno put it quite nicely, data is the new currency.
Right.
And this currency enables entirely new business models. We're talking subscriptions, highly personalized user experiences, you name it.
And we're seeing major OEMs actually leveraging this already, aren't we? Massimo Cavazzini shared how BMW is using AWS to scale and automate software development in virtual ECUs.
And Alex Artemino noted Volvo Cars is optimizing their in-vehicle software testing using AWS Graviton on Amazon EKS.
So what does that mean in practice? Shifting testing to the cloud.
Essentially, yeah, they're shifting significant parts of their in-vehicle software testing to the cloud. This allows for massive parallel execution, faster feedback loops. It really speeds things up.
It seems like generative AI is also moving into some perhaps unexpected domains like safety assurance. Johannes Betts highlighted its use in scenario generation for autonomous functions. What are the implications there?
It could be a real game changer for validation. Imagine using Gen AI to create vast numbers of diverse, realistic driving scenarios, far more than you could physically test.
Right, at scale.
Exactly. It could pave the way for much faster, more comprehensive validation of autonomous functions, potentially accelerating their safe deployment.
But of course, as AI gets deeper into the vehicle, the whole cybersecurity, regulation, and ethics agenda becomes even more critical. Max Cheng, for instance, was advocating for proactive defense investment and really clear data governance frameworks.
Absolutely essential. It can't be an afterthought. It has to be foundational for building trust and ensuring safety, wouldn't you say?
Totally agree.
And this really puts into perspective the findings from Mayte Alves Becerra's Ward's Intelligence 2025 SDV survey. Interestingly, it revealed that AI and software development capabilities have actually overtaken data management as the primary SDV enablers in terms of priority.
Oh, that's a significant shift.
It is. But Guido Barati observed that for engineers on the ground, the daily challenge isn't just generating data anymore, it's managing it and, crucially, extracting actual intelligence from that data deluge. That's the hard part.
Right, turning data into insight. Okay, so beyond the architecture in the data, let's pivot to what this all means for actual product and platform innovations hitting the market. ARM, for example, just unveiled a new 16-core automotive compute platform, plus the Xena accelerator. Jack Dunkley and Bob O'Donnell both noted these are specifically designed for AI-centric workloads, aiming to shorten time to market. That seems huge for getting advanced features to consumers faster.
It is. And it's also interesting to see how mainstream DevOps patterns are starting to cross over into these real-time automotive domains. Dr. Moritz Neukirchner showcased NKaios demonstrating container orchestration for in-vehicle high-performance computing, or HPC.
Container orchestration. Unpack that a bit.
Sure. Think of it as a super efficient way to package, deploy, and manage different software components directly within the vehicle's complex systems. It makes development and updates much more agile, much more like modern software development.
Got it. More agile. And it's not just about the raw compute power either, is it? It's about what that power enables. Simon Hegarty described a class-leading electric truck showing incredibly precise control on icy test tracks.
Yeah, thanks to advanced vehicle dynamics software.
Exactly. It really proves the maturity is moving beyond just, cool concept demos to real-world production-level performance.
Which naturally leads to the question, what happens when the big tech giants really enter the automotive space more deeply? Mirko Stanic observed Apple's CarPlay Ultra-launching with Aston Martin.
Aston Martin, right.
For a smaller luxury OEM like them, it's almost a field leveler in infotainment, isn't it? They just can't compete head-to-head with the R&D budgets of the high-volume players on that front.
True.
But it also creates this dilemma, especially for the larger OEMs, about how much control they're willing to hand over to tech giants within the dashboard.
It's a really complex dynamic, forcing new strategic thinking. But it also maybe points towards more collaborative approaches becoming necessary. Praveen Yalavardi announced that SDVs won the Autotech Award for Automotive Enabling Product.
Right, SDVs being that platform built by the industry for the industry.
Exactly. It highlights this growing need for collaboration to simplify and accelerate how software is discovered and sourced. That seems crucial for everyone to move forward efficiently.
It really does. And this brings us perfectly to our next theme, partnerships and ecosystem dynamics. These are becoming absolutely critical. You can't go it alone anymore.
Seems that way.
Yuma highlighted GAC Toyota's smart mobility collaboration with Xiaomi for the upcoming BZ7. That's a fascinating example, blending that consumer electronics speed and mindset with traditional automotive scale.
That convergence is fascinating. And we're seeing it in the commercial vehicle space too, right?
Yeah.
The Core joint venture.
Yes, Volvo Group and Daimler Truck AG defining a common commercial vehicle software baseline. Both Karine Rodstrom and Dr. Andreas Gorbach discussed how they're aiming for a new industry standard, kind of like creating an iOS for trucks, as some put it.
An iOS for trucks, I like that.
And zooming out a bit, you look at events like Startup Autobahn, CAR.HMI, observations from Michael Weyrich, Prasanth Galbadala, Guang Yang. They all consistently emphasize that cross-industry teaming is the fastest way to actually deployable UX, HMI, and SDV capabilities.
So the era of closed ecosystems is really over.
It seems to be. It's just not efficient enough anymore.
Yeah, and Nir Bandetta's post about the partnership between Volvo Cars and HCL Tech really drove that point home too, focusing on transforming the entire end-to-end value chain for next-gen SDVs.
Exactly. It's about a complete reimagining of how vehicles are developed and maintained, not just tweaking things around the edges.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to our next theme. Autonomous and ADS progress. We're definitely seeing real steps forward here, not just hype.
Agreed.
Aaron Paul highlighted BMW's iX3 Level 2 Plus package. It demonstrates features like lane change assist, traffic jam assist.
Yeah.
These advanced driver assistance systems, ADS, are genuinely closing the gap towards supervised autonomy. They make driving smoother, safer.
And it's not just about what's in production vehicles right now. Matthew Avery reported on Euro NCAP visiting Daimler truck prototypes, getting hands-on with advanced safety tech. Plus, Augustin Friedel's observations from China.
What did he see there?
Well, he mentioned growing discussions around 4D radar technology and significantly increasing regulator interest in these next-generation sensor suites. It signals a push towards more robust, more comprehensive sensing for higher levels of autonomy.
Which, naturally, leads us to that critical discussion around autonomous system safety. Florian Rode recently talked about continuous delivery frameworks specifically for autonomous stacks and, crucially, liability-aware release practices.
That's key, isn't it? Baking safety engineering right into the core software discipline, ensuring systems can evolve safely and securely over time.
But what's maybe surprising here is the ongoing, sometimes heated, debate around terminology.
Oh yes, Özgür Nurettin Puskul's post cautioned very strongly against calling a Level 2 system full self-driving.
Still a hot topic.
Very much so. He emphasized the critical need for sensor redundancy, additional sensors beyond just cameras for true Level 4 autonomy. He pointed to Mobileye's approach. Vision plus radar plus optional LiDAR as the necessary path for formal safety cases and, genuine operational redundancy.
Basically, don't sacrifice safety for marketing buzzwords.
Precisely. It's about being rigorous and clear.
Okay, finally, let's broaden out and explore the wider strategy and industry evolution that all these technological and partnership changes imply. It feels like the biggest hurdles aren't always the purely technical ones.
That seems to be the case. Dick Stivasahayam's point resonates here again that leadership and the actual operating model design, not AI itself, are what ultimately determine competitive advantage. It's a crucial strategic insight.
And Fadi Labib drew that powerful parallel.
Ah, yes, the Nokia comparison. It really sticks with you, doesn't it? Nokia losing to Apple primarily due to software, not hardware failure, back in the smartphone wars.
Right.
And he argued that traditional car companies genuinely risk repeating that pattern with failed software projects if they don't fundamentally fix their operating model. He emphasized product lifecycle ownership across system, software, and architecture. It needs to be integrated.
That historical parallel is quite sobering, actually. It makes you wonder about the whole App Store moment for cars. Kershard Coase brought this up. Will OEMs try to enforce tightly curated ecosystems to protect quality, safety, maybe revenue? Or will we see a kind of Wild West app gold rush? Vinicius Taduzine suggested cars might end up more like smart TVs. Meaning maybe only a few key must-have apps dominate, rather than a vast, sprawling marketplace like on your phone. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a fascinating question. I suspect reality might be somewhere in between, but the TV analogy is interesting. The broader implication, I think, is that the competitive battleground itself is shifting. Ken Johnston argued that CI/CD pipelines, continuous integration, continuous delivery are the new battleground.
The four pipelines themselves.
Exactly. He said the companies that win won't just build better vehicles. They'll ship better code faster and more often. And Heiko Hutel observed that legacy automakers often really struggle with the sheer complexity of automotive software, and that struggle directly impacts their potential revenue streams from these new services.
So wrapping this all up, what does it really mean for the industry moving forward? Martin Schleicher's survey findings seem to bring it all together quite powerfully.
They really do. When industry professionals were asked about the biggest challenges on the road to the software-defined vehicle,
What came out on top?
business model and organization process culture. Those were ranked highest. Things like technology itself or even the availability of engineers were actually rated much lower down the list of challenges.
That's quite telling, isn't it?
It really reinforces that SDV isn't just a technology upgrade. It's about a fundamental transformation in how the entire automotive industry operates. Ultimately, it's about delivering genuine end customer value in new ways. It points to a much deeper shift in the whole operating model.
A profound shift indeed. Well, if you enjoyed this deep dive, new episodes drop every 2 weeks. Also check out our other editions covering electrification and battery technology, future mobility and market evolution, and commercial fleet insights. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive, and we look forward to bringing you more insights into the future of mobility.